Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox exploding. Oh, all of today's guests, meanwhile, including Max Herz from Predators Radio, 102.5 The Game, standing by. Brought to you by the Bayside Oceanfront Resort. Book your stay at the Bayside and enjoy the many amenities the hotel has to offer, such as oceanfront rooms, free parking, oceanfront restaurant, cafe, indoor and outdoor swimming pools, gym, and more. Call 250-248-8333 or go to their website, Bayside.com, as we bring in from 102.5 The Game in Nashville, Tennessee, Max Herz. Max, thanks so much for doing this, sir. How are you?
Hey guys, great to be on.
Are you enjoying? We were saying this yesterday, man. Two great cities involved in a series. Are you having a fun time in our city?
Yeah, it's flown really. It's been mostly a hockey visit for us. This is actually my fourth time here. This is the city I've been to the most with the Preds. So great to be back for an extended stay.
What was your takeaway from Game 1, Max, especially given the fact that the Predators lost after after having a 2-1 lead after two periods?
Yeah, I think the Preds and Canucks kind of had a similar list of takeaways from that game, I would bet. Wanting to generate more, wanting to get inside more, wanting more from their power play, even though the Preds did get a power play goal. They had 3 chances after that all came pretty shortly after, that all came up empty. So they definitely want to generate more here in this game, but I think the Canucks probably came out of Game 1 saying the same thing, even though they won. So the Predators feel like the 3 goals they gave up in live play, one that UC Saros should have had in the second period, then 2 in short succession that were missed execution on defense. So it certainly was a winnable game.
Yeah, what's the take on what happened in the 12 seconds it took for the Canucks to take the lead in the third period?
Yeah, the big thing Andrew Brunette said right after the game was they didn't get out and challenge the Quinn Hughes shot that got tipped in by Suter. And that was a rare defensive breakdown from the Preds in their D-zone coverage in that game. And that was the Tommy Novak line, which did not play a ton the rest of the way. That's the line that they are most concerned about defensively, and none of the forwards were able to get out there on Hughes and block that shot at the point. So that was one that they felt like they should have prevented from getting to the net. Once it goes through that traffic, probably going to get tipped on goal or in, as it did. And then 12 seconds later, just good forechecking by the Canucks. Alex Carrier has the puck go through his legs, but Andrew Brunette brought it up after the game as well. It was a big problem for the Preds earlier in the season. The shift, the shift after a goal, both goal for and goal against, had been a big problem for them early in the season, but that was something that they'd cleaned up as they've gotten hot at the right time here. So kind of some older issues creeping up on them.
Hey, Max, Burnett said something interesting after Game 1. He felt they're a bit rusty because of the long layoff between the regular season and the playoffs. Did you agree? Because he didn't think they were as sharp because of the layoff.
I think at the end of the game, maybe it showed in terms of how much they had left at the end to try and come back in that game. But I thought at the beginning, they absolutely met the challenge head on from the Canucks. The crowd, I think, helped the Preds in that regard. They were hard hitting, but they weren't taking themselves out of position. I think they were going stride for stride with them until those Canucks goals went in the third. And I think once they got to that point, it wasn't quite their usual late third period gusto that they've had recently. So I think, to me, that would be where there was rust, if anywhere.
Ryan O'Reilly, 23 minutes, more than any forward on any team. Roman Josi, 26 minutes, more than any defenseman on either team. That's pretty big minutes for those two. Do you expect these two to keep getting those type of minutes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, especially if it's a big power play game as well. So a lot of that time for both those guys is power play time. But when Ryan O'Reilly came to the Preds to start this season, he didn't play in the first preseason games on the road. Then he debuted in the first home preseason game, and he played 25 minutes in that game. Top power play, top penalty kill, top line center. And it's like, oh, here we go. This is what Ryan O'Reilly's doing for the Preds this year. So, no, it's more of the same. Those guys are arguably the two best conditioned players on the team as well. So they're going to ride their horses, that's for sure. And that's what they should be doing.
Okay, Max, let's get away from the playoffs for a second and go back in time. Give us the scoop. What happened? Vegas, U2, and Spheregate.
Yeah.
What's the real story there?
I think the team, for the most part, is pretty tired of talking about it, but it coincided with the week right out of the All-Star break. They had 3 home games out of the break and then a 5-game road trip that started in St. Louis and then was going to Las Vegas for the second game. But it sounds like the team had that lined up for a little while. And then 3 games out of the All-Star break, they beat the Coyotes in overtime in the first one in a pretty sloppy win. Then they got beaten by the Devils, who were on a back-to-back, and the Preds were not on a back-to-back in that game. And then 2 days later, they got crushed by the Stars. So it was certainly something that the team decided almost together. I mean, it was initiated by Barry Trotz and the coaching staff, but I think more so than people would think, the team was in on the conversation. And when the players have been asked about it, they basically said, like, yeah, we got it. We understood it. And it was right at the start of the 18-game point streak. So regardless of what exactly turned the season around, that happened right when the season turned around.
Was there the possibility that the broadcasters and reporters that cover the Predators on a regular basis were going to go to the Sphere and see you two?
No, not that I know of.
Okay. All right. Hey, Max, Vancouver has itself, I would say, a strong Jack Adams candidate in Rick Tocchet. What about Andrew Burnett? I think most people even here would agree that he is also a strong candidate. What has he done well as a head coach?
Yeah, the way I positioned this series in a lot of ways is the guys who locked down a couple of the big awards in the first 2 months of the season going up against the guys who made big pushes to at least be second in the second half, with the Jack Adams for Tocchet and Brunette and the Norris for Hughes and Yossi. He's been incredible. The Preds are not here without him, that's for sure. They won this coaching cycle, to me, without a doubt, in a season when a lot of the teams that made coaching changes either last summer or along the way did not make the playoffs. And it's teams that were in more desperate positions than the Predators coming into the season. So I think the Predators got the best hire of the cycle for sure. And he's just been so incredible in terms of sticking with his plan and letting his system go to work, understanding that it would take time for the team to get to where they needed to be. But once everything clicked in the final third of the season, man, I mean, everything was going right for them and for individual players, too, who have gotten better along the way. Luke Evangelista has talked about it a lot, and this is his first full NHL season. I thought he looked really good in his Stanley Cup playoff debut in Game 1, and it's all because of the system. I mean, he had his moments early in the year, but it took him some time to really get it down, and now you see how the system has gotten into him in terms of the puck hounding, the physical play, being in the right place, driving offense from a lot of different areas. And I just think the system has unlocked so much in so many different guys. And Yossi is the same way, too, because he had to tweak the way he played a little bit in terms of when and where on the ice he was getting the puck and getting his looks based on the way he's used to playing, which was big puck lugger, gaining the zone entry himself. Now it's more of the forwards doing that for the Preds and Yossi finding ways to contribute in the offensive zone. And it's just one of many stories in the second half of the season that the system really clicked. And I think it's something that could lead to long-term success. It's not something that's going to need to be changed every single season or throughout the season as other teams start to catch up with it, because it's so unique. It's very demanding of the team, but I think the team understands what it demands from them now, and that's why they've gotten hot at the right time here.
Max, what about Barry Trotz? We're so used to seeing him behind the bench, and now he's GM. You know, there were rumors he might trade Saros, the Devils, the talks. Tyson Barrie almost got traded at the deadline, stuff like that. How's he been as GM?
He's been great, and he does it his own way, which is so awesome to me. He's not following any of the great GMs he worked with's blueprint, and he worked with some great GMs, obviously, as a head coach and in other positions in his hockey life. But he's done his own thing, and it's led to a great season. So he made the moves that he thought were necessary. He cut ties with Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson, started with a huge shakeup at the beginning of his GM tenure, and brought in the guys who he thought would matter in terms of bringing the Preds to the playoffs. And there were some people who thought, why would you make those types of moves on multi-year deals if you're not expected to be in the playoffs during the term of those contracts for players who are older than 30? And here they are. And those guys are the most important players on the team. So he put the team in an incredible spot with the veterans he brought in. Because of those guys, Philip Forsberg has had a career season. Roman Josi has had one of his 2 best seasons ever. Keeping Saros was a great move as the team started to get hot. And Trotz said publicly many times, the team will tell me what to do at the trade deadline. And the point streak began 3 weeks before the deadline. They were playing so well, had gotten into a playoff spot. He said they've earned it. They've earned the right to be, at least in part, buyers and not really sellers at the deadline. They made one big sell move. The biggest move was a sell move. Yakov Trenin, who was going to be an unrestricted free agent, goes to the Avalanche for a 3rd-round pick. But then they made 2 little buys, too. They got Pavillier for a 5th-round pick, Jason Zucker for a 6th-round pick, which was a steal. Both those are rentals, but it was just because of Zucker's prorated salary, nobody else could take him. So a 6th-round pick, I mean, he scores the first goal of the playoffs. There's some people who would give up a 6th-round pick just for that goal. So I think he's been an incredible ad, and I just think Trotz has had great feel for the season in every regard and has let that guide him in his decision-making.
10:30 in the morning, and he put a suit and tie on for us.
Yes.
You don't have to do that next time, Max. We'll get you back on.
Yeah.
We appreciate that, and we appreciate the visit. Thanks so much, sir.
Just for you guys. Yeah, my pleasure.
Okay, you bet.